Professionals at Focused Eye Care.
Now back to Chick Chatting with Joselyn Davis on WSMN 1590 and WSMN1590.com.
I'm only one call away.
And this is Joselyn Davis on WSMN 1590, Nashua's source for news and talk. And I lost exactly what I was going to say. That's terrible. So online we have Evan, I believe it's Mulch. And
yeah, just like it sounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I only had the last initial of M, Evan, so I'm sorry. I was trying to remember from conversations with Stiletto and Gino. And I want to welcome you to Middays with Joselyn Davis. And we're basically going to be... you're going to be explaining to us about the John Birch Society, and it's going to be John Birch 101 because there's an awful lot of people that don't know what this is. What does it stand for? What do they do? How are you associated with it? So welcome, and tell us all about it, Evan.
Well, John Birch is the namesake, so he didn't actually found the John Birch Society. John Birch was a World War II hero from Macon, Georgia. And he is actually the one who saved Jimmy Doolittle when Jimmy Doolittle crash landed into enemy territory in China. And it was to Jimmy Doolittle and the others, it was a miracle that a man from Georgia found them where they crash landed. And so immediately John Birch became very famous amongst the soldiers there, and he was actually General Chennault, who was the general in that area for the United States, called him into duty because previously John Birch had been a solo missionary in China. Oh. And so John Birch became an intelligence officer and it became like a son to General Chennault. And he was there in China when we officially defeated the countries that we were against, Germany, Japan, and the others. And so anyways, 8 days after World War II, John Birch was sent a special assignment to investigate communist Chinese. And John Birch would not give up his gun when he was traveling. And so they shot and killed him. They even bayoneted him. It was a terrible execution. And so he became the namesake of the John Birch Society because our federal government did not tell his mother Ethel the truth about what happened to him. They said he was killed by friendly fire. Wow. And so the big question for people in America at that time in the in the 1950s was, why would the federal government cover this up? Mm-hmm. Well, the fact is that our federal government had tag teamed with the Soviet Union, and we helped Mao Zedong, the communist leader in China, when we should have been helping Chiang Kai-shek, the Christian leader in China. Wow. And so we are the ones who gave, after we won World War II, we helped give the Chinese communists the money and the ammo and the military weaponry to defeat Chiang Kai-shek to where his people had to move out to Taiwan. And in the process, the communists killed millions of people.
So we had quite the hand in communist China, Red China, and what it is today.
And it was done under the guise of helping. They tried to make Mao Zedong out to be the next George Washington, basically. The same thing that our media at the time, our deep state fake news media, we identified Castro as the next George Washington when he was labeled a patriot for what he was doing in Cuba. And so what has happened is these globalists for decades now have used communism to destroy freedom in order for them to gain control. They have enough money. What they want is control. They can do that through communism, which they now call technocracy. I don't know if you've studied that. But anyways, the John Birch Society was founded by a man from North Carolina who had a candy factory in Boston with his brother. I believe it was called Welch Candy Factory. And so Robert Welch, who was a graduate of Harvard Law, and originally from North Carolina, he graduated from the University of North Carolina at the age of 16. People called him a child prodigy. But he came up with this idea: if we're going to stop the communists in America, we can't just form these silly, Tea Party, American organizations. We actually had to be seriously organized against the left, because the left, as he found out, was seriously organized. So he formed the John Birch Society with some of the top business leaders in America at that time. And he had, I think at one time, about 50 to 100 field coordinators full-time working in the United States, exposing the communist strategy, enrolling new members into the John Birch Society, and hosting John Birch Society events all over America. And we're still here 60 years, from the date. Actually, it's 62 years now, and we're still being, we're still able to expose the deep state, and then more people. We have the John Birch Society has a clean record to where. Here's what happened to us. Because is this your first time learning about the John Birch Society?
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I mean, I've heard little bits and pieces, but a lot of people's like, I want to know about this. I want to understand about it because there's just stuff out there, and there's bits and pieces, and I'd kind of like to have it, truthful and how did it work? How have you been fighting the communists? When we know that we've got all these communist people in our government and agencies, how have they become so prolific? How have they gotten away with this? We've got you exposing this.
Yeah, because they've had the top leaders in government helping them.
Okay.
And that's still happening today. We have top leaders in government that are helping those who are in agreement with communism. And you call it socialism or you can call it communism. It's the same thing. It leads to the same creation.
Right. So you're talking about Bernie Sanders, and you're talking about many on the left. You're talking about AOC and all the rest of them that are touting this and pushing it at all different levels throughout the government.
And then we're also talking about Republicans, too, because most Republicans are actually on the left as well. And so you're talking about the George W. Bush-era neocons, the neoconservatives. And so you still have a lot of those today that are in existence in the Republican Party they're not Marxist leftists like AOC, but they're Trotskyite leftists. So the difference between, Leninism and Trotskyism. So AOC would rather do it at gunpoint. Same with Bernie Sanders, although he doesn't say this. He would rather enforce this communist ideal of his at gunpoint. The neocons, the neoconservatives, would rather do it without using weapons. They would rather do it. What they do is bits and salami slice by salami slice. They're adding these socialist regulations and social additions to our form of government, and slowly the American people will just give in to communism.
So just like we're doing
fighting against it.
So exactly what we're doing right now against the coronavirus. They've escalated.
Exactly. Yeah. We have a 60-day free trial of communism right now, or soft communism. And we are accepting it, and not everybody,
right?
But the American people. If we did not accept it, we wouldn't have allowed this to happen from day one.
So here's the thing. I've had a bunch of people say to me that, you should be fighting it. We need to fight it. Well, how do you force the bank to open? How do you, something as simple as that people can grasp onto? You want to go into the bank. You want to go into the lobby. You want to do, your business, not sitting in a line in a car for an hour to 2 hours to do your banking and hoping the person at the other end gets it right, or you have to do it their way. That's one really simple example. The other is, you go to a store and they say, well, this is a private store. You have to put on gloves and you have to put on a mask. Okay, but you can't do this because this is the rules we've set up. So we are seeing it everywhere, and it's I would say pretty darn significant.
Yeah, it has to give in, and I'm not against anybody who wants to protect themselves by wearing gloves or by wearing a face mask. But what we're seeing is that this COVID-19 epidemic, I call it a plandemic, because it's not an epidemic. It's been planned, and it's destroying freedom. Some people are getting sick from it and they are dying, but it's no worse than the flu season. So if we're okay with what's going on right now, are we going to shut down the economy every flu season now? That's the big question. Mm-hmm. And these people that are in charge of our government, they would. And so we've got to make some big decisions. Are we going to continue to elect these same people who are willing to trade our freedom for security? And America, the American people we're not supposed to be those type of people. We are supposed to be those who prefer dangerous freedom for any sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do we? Can you join the John Birch Society? Are there local chapters? What do we do? How do we get involved so that we can know who we're up against? Because like you said, we had the Bushes and there are Republicans. Well, I mean, if we're honest, the center has really slid very far left in the last 50, 70
Absolutely.
years. So, we're right of very left at this point, the few people. But we need to be identifying who we can trust. How do we push back? How do we reclaim our rights?
Yeah.
Efficiently.
So here's my suggestion for everybody. Identify one group in America that exposes the Council on Foreign Relations. And you will find that one group is only the John Birch Society. Mm-hmm. The question in everybody's mind that's listening to this right now is, why is it only the John Birch Society that's been exposing the Council on Foreign Relations since 1958? The Council on Foreign Relations, also called the CFR, is located in New York City. It is the headquarters for the communist movement in the United States. It is the front group for the New World Order within the borders of the United States. Why doesn't Fox News tell you about this? Why doesn't Sean Hannity tell you about this? Why doesn't Mark Levin tell you about this? And I'm not going to tell you why they don't tell you this, but Sean Hannity wears a CIA lapel pin when he talks on Fox News. And if you haven't heard of Operation Mockingbird, there's certainly reason to question Sean Hannity if he's wearing a CIA lapel pin.
Is that the thin blue line skull thing? That pin?
You know what? I couldn't tell you the complete identification of the pin. I just know he wears it. You can see CIA on it.
Okay.
And a former CIA agent often points it out on Twitter, so that's why I'm reminded by that. But anyways, Fox News has been owned by a CFR member. And I know they're owned partially by Disney now, but it's been owned by a Council on Foreign Relations member. So it's actually a man from your area. So you're out of Boston, right?
Yeah.
So a man by the name of James Perloff. I read his book about 10 years ago. It's called Shadows of Power, and it was a total book on the deep state and the fact that the deep state is led by the Council on Foreign Relations. Hillary Clinton, if you YouTube Hillary Clinton, the Council on Foreign Relations, you will even see a video of her where she talks about how the Council on Foreign Relations gives her the orders and gives politicians their orders. Robert Lighthizer, who President Trump uses as his U.S. trade representative, he is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations was formed in 1921 in order to create a communist United States of America. A man by the name of Edward Mandell House was the organization's first president. He was the right-hand man to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson actually said that, I think exactly the same way as my right-hand man, Edward Mandell House. Edward Mandell House, before Woodrow Wilson became president, wrote a book called Philip Drew Administrator. The book was about how one person in charge of the United States could turn it into a communist democracy. Now, part of the plot, I hope this isn't too much for you, Joselyn.
It's not.
Yeah.
The scary part, the disgusting part is, to what end with all of this? They've got the money, they want the power. To what end? So that they can own the United States, so that we can be just like China, so that we are all slaves. This is where a lot of people have a disconnect in trying to understand what is the point, and that it's been around for this long.
Okay, the Council on Foreign Relations was formed because Woodrow Wilson was not able to get the job done. Mm-hmm. He was not able to form the one world government when he was in presidency. If you remember, he went to, I'm forgetting the name of the country or where they went to, but he went to negotiate a deal to form a one world government. When he came back, Congress did not agree to it. And so what the Council on Foreign Relations did is it was formed, and it eventually was able to help create the United Nations, which is their one world government, okay?
Yep.
The only religious organization tied to the United Nations is the Lucis Trust. They have the only religious room at the United Nations headquarters. They had to rename it the Lucis Trust because it used to be called the Lucifer Publishing Company.
Oh, Lord.
You can go to the United Nations website and you can find this out. It's all out there in plain. It's out there for all of us to see. But here's what happens: is congressmen will play stupid. My congressman, I'm in South Carolina. My congressman's William Timmons. I delivered him all the facts, told him why we need to get out of the United Nations, and his reply to me in a letter was, "Your belief that the Lucis Trust is partnered with the United Nations has no merit." That's what he wrote back to me. I've that actually right in front of me in a letter. I'm getting ready to send that to all the pastors in my area. But this is the Robert Welch, the founder, who started the John Birch Society right there in the Boston area. He told people it is a satanic conspiracy, and the truth he told us back in 1958 is still the same truth. And it's a satanic conspiracy. Yes.
And they continue. So when we look at all these stories, and they all seem to point back to the same place, to the same people, the same group. And life marches on, but everybody ignores what's right in front of their face and what they're saying to our faces. They're straight out saying this is what we want. And people, just kind of look and go, I just don't understand why it's not taken seriously. I also, is our president actually fighting this? Do we know?
Well, we hope so. We hope so, but we don't know.
Right.
And what Robert Welch, the founder of the John Birch Society, would have said, he said this many times, is don't put your hope in presidents and don't spend any time on presidents. The key is Congress. Right. It is so easy for 500 people in one congressional district to get rid of a congressman and to elect a congressman that obeys the U.S. Constitution. The problem is, in nearly every congressional district in America, we don't have 500 people willing to stand up and demand that their congressman obeys the Constitution.
Wow.
And that is because of but here's the solution. So I want to tell you the good news.
Okay.
The good news is we've tested the plan. We know that if 500 members who are dedicated in a congressional district, 500 members of the John Birch Society get active, we can switch every congressional district in the country. And so the key is go ahead.
Sorry. So and that's what you're proposing that we need to do for this November.
Every November. Now, it may be too late if nobody's running against your congressman that wants to support the U.S. Constitution. Most congressmen, if you go to our website, thenewamerican.com, that's our website for our magazine.
Okay.
There's a link on there for the Freedom Index. That's how we grade our congressmen. Over 90% of the congressmen don't even hit the 60% mark on the Freedom Index. Wow. Only one or two get 100%. So we basically, as Americans, have been okay for decades now with our congressmen not obeying the U.S. Constitution. And here's the interesting thing. The John Birch Society in the 1960s became the most popular American organization in the world, basically. We became the open target for the communists. In 1964, because the deep state owned all the media at the time, all the mainstream media, just like they do now, they were able to shut down any discussion about John Birch Society on the mainstream radio waves, the mainstream TV channels. So it was all shut down, all in basically one day in 1964. And so their game plan, because they knew if they talked about us, they would grow our membership. So here's what they did. They quit talking about us, and then they helped this group called National Review, led by William F. Buckley. William F. Buckley became the American leader. And if you see my fingers right now, I've got parentheses I'm using I'm doing the parentheses. they wanted him to be perceived as the new American leader to replace Robert Welch, the founder of the John Birch Society. Mm-hmm. He became the conservative on all the talk shows from that time until the 1980s, I think even until the 1990s, okay? So William F. Buckley was actually a member of Skull and Bones out of Yale, which is the same organization that John Kerry's part of and George W. Bush has been part of, and the late George H.W. Bush was part of. Wow. Okay? William F. Buckley was also a CIA member. His dad was a CIA member. So National Review definitely looks like it was a part of Operation Mockingbird, a CIA project to get Americans to agree to the New World Order, where they set up news media organizations specifically to get Americans to get into this. And the John Birch Society since 1958 has been here for the American people to try to talk Americans into saving their republic.
Good
and what
Lord.
we're doing is working. But the fact that you are for the first time learning about the John Birch Society just goes to show how much further we need to go, and how much we need Americans to do a better job telling others about the John Birch Society.
Yeah, and I think the big problem is, so, when you mention names like the Bushes and everybody says, oh, they were Republicans, oh, they were this. And when you start talking, I hear different things than other people. I hear, Buckley was CIA. I hear, Bush was CIA. And I start seeing all these names and linking to CIA. And then I look at other names and who they're all linking to and different organizations. And you hear, little rumors and you say, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't add up. But everybody just assumes that the CIA and the FBI and the NSA and all these groups are totally for America. And when you peel back the multiple layers of the onion, you're seeing they're all in bed together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's,
Well, it's all been playing that way, and that's because they were organized and we, the Americans, were not. And we weren't even aware of who the enemy was. Most Americans have no idea what the Council on Foreign Relations is, but they know that they love their guns and they're not going to give up their guns. But if you don't understand the enemy, you'll never beat the enemy. And that's what's so important is if you don't identify the leaders of the communist movement and what I would call today the technocracy movement, because that's really what they're using today rather than communism, although technocracy is,
a form of it,
very similar to communism, yeah. But if until Americans can take, see, too many people today are saying just trust Trump. I'm going to go to all the Trump rallies. I'm going to vote for Trump, and they don't understand that if they devoted that same amount of time and energy to being a member of the John Birch Society and to changing out their congressmen, that is the actual cure to the problem. Not going out and doing all they can to support and vote for Trump.
Because
I'm not saying, yeah.
So if he doesn't, so let's say he is the good guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a support system. And if he doesn't have a support system, we don't have a support system. So the Congress and the Senate are very, very important in order to protect the person that wants to keep America as a democratic republic.
Yeah. And yeah, correct. Now, we in the John Birch Society, we don't. Jefferson would have said we're a democratic republic, but we try not to use the word democracy at all.
Okay.
As you've probably learned,
just as a republic,
we are a constitutional republic. Would be the better way to say it.
Okay.
The communists in the early 1900s. If you read Robert Welch's speech, you can actually find it on. You can do a Google search. I don't recommend Google, but you do a DuckDuckGo search or whatever. But if you look up his speech, Republics and Democracies, you can actually purchase the speech from our website on jbs.org. But you'll actually find out that the communists in the early 1900s started with a mayor in New York City. He started calling the United States a democracy. And today you even go on Fox News and you hear the Fox News host openly calling the John Birch, or not the John, our republic a democracy.
Right.
Why did they do that? Yeah.
So that so they could get everybody, desensitized and get them used to that word.
Yeah. Well, even Karl Marx said that we need to form every country into democracy. That's the key to creating communism. And republics are the enemy of communism. Republics like ours that respect God-given rights, are the ultimate enemy to communism. I didn't learn about God-given rights really until I was about 30 years old. I listened to Ron Paul on a YouTube video where he explained God-given rights, and it changed my life forever. I had kind of heard at times we had unalienable rights, and I remember in 5th grade I did a study on the Bill of Rights with my teacher, but it just didn't really set in at the time of what these God-given rights actually were and I understood them to be God-given rights. But the John Birch Society, we remind people that we are Americans first, and so we practice Americanism. We're not Republicans. We're not Democrats. In fact, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party were both formed by communists. We've got a book on that. It's called To the Victor Go the Myths and Monuments by our CEO, Art Thompson. But anyways, the key is that we hang on to the Declaration of Independence. We all have to believe that we have God-given rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is property. Mm-hmm. So property and pursuit of happiness go together. That's what the founders of the country believed. And would you believe it that the Republican Party and Democrat Party actually descend from a group that was created in Bavaria, Germany. The group was called the Bavarian Illuminati. It was formed May 1st, 1776. That's why May 1st is a communist holiday. It's coming up in just 3 days or so?
Yeah.
And so May 1st is celebrated as a communist holiday. It's not because it's a communist holiday. It's because it is the 1-year anniversary of the creation of the Bavarian Illuminati, which was started May 1st, 1776. And could you believe that a few days later, July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was created?
Wow.
So on one part of the world, all in the same year, in basically the same time period, it's the spring and summer months, you've got the creation of the ultimate communist group that wants to destroy the belief in God, destroy the family, and then on the other side of the earth, you've got the creation of the Declaration of Independence, which is the ultimate response to this group. Although this group in America had no idea that this group in Germany was being created. Can you believe that?
No, wow. I'm like totally speechless. I mean, boy, God works in mysterious ways. Seriously,
Satan does work and God does his work, and we just got to understand that God wins, and those of us who love God and follow God, we're the ultimate winners. But we have to deal with this when we're in this world, because those that believe in God are not of this world. Our time's coming once this life is over with. But during this time, we do have to work against the satanic things that go on in this world. And one of the things that everybody can do is join the John Birch Society and put up a fight against what's taking place, so that our children and grandchildren can have the same experiences a lot of us have had, to live in this freedom, to be able to go to church every Sunday, or to be able to experience the freedom to learn what you want to learn. And so anyways, what I'd recommend is if anybody's listening to this, if they want to join, don't go to the website, call me, because I want to talk to you. My cell phone number is 864-804-0789.
Okay, that's really fast. So go slow going.
864-804-0789. 864-804-0789. You can call or text me at that number, and I'll help you get signed up for the John Birch Society. And I encourage you to do so right away, because it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's $49. I'm sorry, $48 a year for a digital member. Now, if you want to receive our print magazine and our print newspaper that comes out once a month, the magazine comes twice a month, the newspaper comes once a month. That's $87 a year. That's all it costs to be a member of the John Birch Society. And we do a lot of online events. This evening I'm hosting a conference call with a patriot who actually had to live in a prison camp under Castro's regime for 2 years. And he's going to talk about how the communist plan for Cuba is the same plan they're implementing in America today. So that's our webinar this evening. So there's so many things you can get out of being a John Birch Society member, that it's the money you put into it is just
it will come back tenfold. Yeah. So my question
it'll come back tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question would be, because we're down to like 2 minutes, So are there local chapters in each state that or is it, can we look forward to that there might be people that we can actually reach out and touch and talk to? Is it big enough that...
The John Birch Society will help you with that.
Okay.
I've got some bad news for you. Americans became very much asleep.
Of course they did.
They quit meeting with people. They quit going to people's houses to talk about these things. So you may not have a local chapter nearby your house.
Okay.
But guess what? This is the perfect time period to form a local chapter at your house. We recommend local restaurants. A lot of restaurants aren't open right now. So, you got to roll with the punches in life, Wait till this thing gets over with and then schedule a meeting in a restaurant right away. Get people who are concerned together. Get them all to join the John Birch Society. We've got to work together in a concerted way with concerted action. And we have to be as organized as the left. We have to be more organized than the left. And the John Birch Society can help you. And there's a field coordinator that can help you in your area. So if you're listening to this wherever you are in the United States, we can help you wherever you live. But just don't put all the pressure on the employees to do all the work. It's really every American has to do their part right now.
Everybody has to, like you said, do their part. Everybody has to push back. Everybody's got to have the same plan, and that plan is stop reelecting the same people. Go on to the website and look and see. You said that was newamerica.com, and look and see what the grade is that your congressperson has, and let's figure out who we need to run, who we need to get behind, and stop picking the same people because it's easy, and stop with the I'd have a beer with that person, because that's something that's way past. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Oh, I like him, he's a nice guy. I like her, she's a nice guy. No, we got to go and get the truth, and we've got to hold these people up. Do your job, do what we've asked you to do, and stop letting them slip.
Yeah, if we don't play the game, if we're not the referees in our republic, there are no referees in our republic. These congressmen don't even know they're not obeying the Constitution because nobody's told them otherwise.
Right. No one's held them accountable. No one.
You need to be the one. You need to be the one that text messages your congressman every time he disobeys the Constitution.
I do. We have a group here, and we want to build that. So I want to thank you because we're down to our last couple of seconds, Evan, and I'm going to give out your number so anybody interested in finding out more about the John Birch Society or joining. Evan is saying text him or call him first. And number is 864-804-0789, and he will help you with the membership, with finding out what is the plan, how do we get America back, and stop playing, and pretending that recess is here for the, forever. Thank you, Evan, and I would love to have you back on again, and I will be back in touch. God bless, and thank you for coming on the show, Middays with Joselyn Davis.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow. So I don't know about you, but my head is spinning. This is bits and pieces that we've heard. I didn't know that much about the society, did not understand how far back this communism, New World Order, deep state of which Evan is talking about, how far back it goes. I think, and if you're honest, people, I think you would feel the same way. So if you knew this all along, you've known this for years and years and years, that you've said nothing. So I have to say, shame on you. Where have you been? Evan says you've been asleep. I say, we've all been partying and out to recess. Does life have to be, intense at 1,000% all the time? No, but I think he's exactly right. We need to know who our enemy is, and which is a strange phrasing of words. And why I say strange is because what have we been listening to for the past 60, 70 days? The unknown enemy, the COVID virus. Really, I'm thinking that's code word for communism. I'm thinking COVID is what they use, the plan to slam us down, lock us in our houses, take away our rights. You can't get your hair cut. You can't go to the grocery store unless you need to. You can't get, everybody has to make appointments. You can't see your doctor unless you're sick with the COVID. You have to get tested. You have to this, you have to that, whether you have symptoms or not. Am I making any sense here? Because that just became perfectly clear to me. That just was, light dawning on Marblehead, as my dad used to say. COVID, code word, communism, takeover. And we have complied and sat in our houses and took the handouts of checks. Yes, even you, all the anti-Trumpers who cashed those checks. I still don't have mine. Did you get yours yet, Art? Nope, Art doesn't have it. I don't have it. I've got a number of friends who do not have it. I file taxes. They file taxes. We pay our taxes. What the heck is going on? Talking with a couple of 30-somethings, yes, 30-something young men and women, and they have firsthand knowledge of people in other countries that received the $1,200 because they worked here part-time in the United States and filed taxes. I want to know how that's possible. Don't be smart with me. Don't be a know-it-all. We need to fight this invisible enemy, communism, the deep state, Fauci, all the rest of them. Thank you for joining me, Joselyn Davis, on WSN 1590, national source for news and talk. Have a great day, and make sure you reach out to the John Birch Society.